Songs and Sit-Downs, featuring Owen Dara. And now, Owen Dara.
Good evening. Good evening and welcome to Songs and Sit-Downs. Thank you so much for joining us on this, our 5th edition of the series. It's June 1st, which puts us on the precipice of summer. Not quite there yet. Currently, we're in the season of bummer, apparently. In the midst of a pandemic, now there's rioting, looting. We're all under a curfew. Later in the program, we will be paying tribute to the memory of George Floyd. It's by way of a beautiful song that was written in his honor and written about all that is happening in our current time. And we'd also like to dedicate the show to George Floyd's memory. Also to the hope that all who are prejudiced against will one day soon gather under the umbrella of equality. This has been a tough year for a lot of people, and it's been hard to watch the news and hear all about what's going on in the world. Here at Songs and Sit-Downs, we try to lean a little more towards the lighthearted. So with that in mind, I wanted to share with you something that I came across this week that mirrors a lot of what many of us are feeling. So here is what I saw, came up on my Facebook during the week. And yeah, well, it didn't come up, but it's that kind of week. It's that kind of year. I'll describe to you what it was. It was said that scientists discovered a cave that was 5 million years old, and it had all of these creatures in there. Oh, and there it is. So it said a crevice that was 5 million years old, and then the comment on the bottom was basically what kind of made me smile and thought, oh, it's very pertinent. It said, seal that cave back up and walk away. This is not the year, man. And that was beautifully said by Carabeth Amsterdam. Thank you, Dolly. And speaking of things beautiful, we're now going to say a quick hello to our fearless leaders at Divine Rebel Music. This is Dolly and JJ working behind the scenes, as always, doing a wonderful job in their studio in Van Nuys, under curfew. And we're going to mention a little bit about the tip jar when we get those guys on screen. But, you know, we may be having some technical difficulties, but as I said, it's that kind of week, it's that kind of year. Hi, guys. Good to see you. It's something in the air right now that's everything that can go wrong will go wrong.
It's happening.
It is.
But we just have to roll with the punches.
Well, they say Murphy's Law. You know Murphy's Law, right? Everything that can go wrong will go wrong at the worst possible time. And then O'Toole's Law. O'Toole's Law is Murphy was an optimist. So I think this week is definitely O'Toole's Law.
Well, it very much feels like that.
So do we have any announcements for Divine Rebel Music and what's going on?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Well, we definitely, do we want to talk about, not yet, right, upcoming gigs? We can save that for later.
Sure.
But actually, what we do have, you know, we've been trying to get more followers on our YouTube pages, right?
Mm-hmm.
Owen, yourself, and also us for Divine Rebel. And we would love to get, the magic number is 1,000. Right?
Yes.
1,000 subscribers, because at that point we can try and monetize on this passion project, because we love doing this.
And expanding the music community and showcasing musicians.
Of course.
And then we won't have to ask the audience each week for tips that we share with the musicians, right? Because it'll be monetized. So if you do get a chance, you can subscribe to our YouTube channels. But for now, we do have to mention the tip jar. So if you'd like to put something up there, and if you'd like to subscribe to either of the YouTube channels or both, Divine Rebel Music and /Owen Dara, that's 2 different ones. If you make 2 clicks, we really appreciate it.
Yes.
And if you do put something in the tip jar, you're putting it in the comments. Thank you so much,
Yeah, I'm going to put that
Dolly.
in the comments, okay?
Thank you. And remember, tips are like hugs without all the touching. Thank you, Dolly. Hopefully we'll get back to tips and touching. It's going to be a while, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you, guys. Thank you for all the work you do. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. And everyone, thank you for tuning in and supporting this show.
And stay safe.
Yes, please. Okay.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Dolly and JJ. Always doing a great job and a great show that we have lined up for you later in the program. I'll be speaking to FREEBO, who, as we all know, is not only a legendary bass player, having played with some of the greatest musical artists in the world, but was also an award-winning songwriter. He's going to chat to us about his journey in his life and in his music. And he's also going to play some songs live here on the show. So please stay with us for that. That's really going to be a great event. And before FREEBO, I'll be speaking with a gentleman by the name of Paul Laudein. He's a comedian and a sketch comedy creator who unfortunately contracted cancer in his 30s. But fortunately for him and for us, he now lives to tell the tale. So he has become known as a survivor turned thriver. And we're honored that he's going to join us tonight on the show. So stay tuned for that. But before that, one of my favorite weekly segments by my favorite person, Jessica Lancaster, always talking about the positive side of things. This is On the Upside with Jessica Lancaster. And O'Toole, possibly O'Toole's Law. I'm just going to tell you a joke. Someone told me this joke, right? I was playing an Irish song. Which one was it? Galway Bay, and it's all about how much I want to go back to Ireland, you know. And so this woman came up to me, actually this woman named Ashley, and it was one of the last live gigs that I do. You remember live gigs when we used to do live gigs? She comes up to me and she says, "Did you hear about the Irish boomerang?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Well, it doesn't come back. It just sings songs about how much it wants to." We need a snare drum in the show. Okay, so I believe we're ready now. Just technical difficulties. Thank you for staying with us. But in fairness, where would you go? It's curfew since 5 o'clock, so you're stuck. As I said, one of my favorite segments by my very favorite person, I should say. This is On the Upside with Jessica Lancaster.
Good evening, everyone, and I hope you're doing okay. I found some inspiring stories that I would like to share with you. First is Deborah and Chris Elliott of Woodland Hills. Now, they wanted to do something meaningful for all the frontline workers and came across RVs for MDs. This Facebook group is pairing owners of RVs with frontline healthcare workers who are caring for COVID-19 patients. When you come home from working with the COVID-19 patients all day long, you really don't want to risk your family of getting infected. So now they can stay in somebody else's RV parked right out front of their house. These people are doing this 100% for free out of the goodness of their heart, said Amber Bouton, an RV for MDs volunteer. Not a cent is being exchanged. They're doing it to save lives. Also, I must say that Deborah and Chris are friends of show. You guys are awesome. Yay, Deborah and Chris. If you would like to get involved, you should just check out RVs for MD's Facebook page. A family dog has become a Guinness World Record holder for holding 6 tennis balls in his mouth. Finley, very good looking boy, lives in New York with his owners Sherry and Rob Malloy. He is a 6-year-old golden retriever, and he's been working on this for his entire life, training really, really hard. Finley is a professional, so please, everybody, very important, do not try this at home. A pod of dolphins off the coast of Queensland, Australia, are bringing ashore gifts from the sea, apparently because they miss human interaction. The dolphins usually mingle with visitors at the Barnacles Cafe and dolphin feeding, but it's been weeks since customers have lined up to feed them because of sheltering in place. So the dolphins are searching for gifts at the bottom of the ocean, and they're bringing it ashore in hopes of getting a response. Now, the cafe is still feeding the dolphins, but they just seem to miss people and human interaction. They are bringing treasures such as sponges, barnacle-encrusted bottles. Now, that's a good one. I would want that. And pieces of coral. Maybe they'll find some gold and maybe bring that up. Now, that would be a very good tip. You looking for things to do with your family during the shelter in place? How about forming a band? I am obsessed with the Colt family, especially that tiny little dancer. Anyways, here they are singing You Can Call Me Al.
Hey everybody, we're the Clark family and we're going to sing You Can Call Me Out by Paul Simon. Dogs in the moonlight, far away and now well adored. Mr. Beer Belly, much away from you. I don't mind this stuff from you.
I would listen to that all day long. Maybe they're taking new members. I can play nothing. But now it is time for the weather with Strudel.
Hi, I'm Strudel and I'm your weather dog. The weather is, it's not too cold, but it's not too hot. I think it's good weather. Yeah, it's good weather for sniffing around in one spot for like a half an hour. It's good weather for that. I hope you like your weather too. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, Strudel, and thank you, Jessica. Yes, believe me, that weather for sniffing around in one spot, Strudel, he's a mutt, many different dogs, and he's part hound dog. Even though he doesn't look it, he is part hound dog, and we did his DNA. And prior to that, we were like, why does this dog sniff so much? Well, that's it. Anyway, our weather dog and our Upside newsreader, Jessica Lancaster. Always a joy to see both of them. Thank you again for joining us. And joining us now is our first guest, Paul Laudon, who began his career in comedy as a stand-up comedian at the Comedy Store in La Jolla, which is close to his native San Diego. He's been performing comedy ever since, and both in the form of stand-up and in sketch comedy. And he's also the creator of Channel Surfing. That's a collection of comedic sketches that he wrote, produced, and starred in, not only for the purpose of entertainment, but also for the noble cause of raising money to help victims of cancer. It is a cause very close to his heart, as Paul himself spent a number of years battling cancer, but thankfully he came through to the other side. And as I said earlier, he is now a survivor turned thriver, and we're delighted to have him on the show with us this evening. Please welcome Paul Laudon.
Tips and Touching, wasn't that the title of your first album?
It should be the title of my next album. Always a comedian. How are you?
Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you. How are things out there? Are you handling this lockdown okay?
Yeah, considering I was already locked down, so the second lockdown didn't affect the first lockdown, so we're staying locked down.
It's like double lockdown, so
Yeah.
lockdown and curfew.
Double probation. Yes.
Yeah, now isn't your wife from Brazil? Is she making like some sangrias during this time?
No, she just finished drinking a beer and is napping. So,
okay.
yeah.
She figured like you were going to be talking, and so she decided to go away and take a nap. Well,
She
just
said,
go back to your early career that I spoke about earlier. You started at the Comedy Store back in San Diego. It's La Jolla, right?
Mm-hmm. The Comedy Store in La Jolla, yeah.
Uh-huh. And you started at a very young age. Were you like a teenager, or how old
It
were
was
you?
2 weeks after my 18th birthday.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
and
you got in there. Uh-huh.
yeah, I had to basically go inside to perform. And then after I finished my set, I had to go stand out front.
Oh, because they wouldn't let you, they'd only let you in to go on stage, and then they'd kick you out?
Yeah, exactly. Well,
What?
they gave me permission to loiter in the lobby. And then when it was my turn, they would introduce me. I would enter, do my stuff, and then go back out to the lobby.
Wow. Well, I've been asked to leave a lot of my stand-up gigs, but it wasn't because of my age.
Different reasons. That's inappropriate behavior and age. Those are two different aspects. Another topic for another time.
Yeah, that's right. Now, how did you get into sketch comedy? Because that's the main thing you do these days.
Yeah, well, what really happened was my stand-up was more performance-oriented. So I'd get up there and I would do characters and I would do these things. And even though I was, working regularly, the sense was more that it was kind of a performance style of act. So ultimately, it just kind of translated into sketch comedy.
And any of the characters now that you do in Channel Surfing, did they start off in your stand-up world, or were they created specifically for sketch? Like, for example, one I came across, Mr. Velcro, that just had me in tears laughing. And I thought, how did you even come up with that?
Well, two things. One, nothing I ever did in my stand-up ever translated into my sketches. I don't know why.
Right.
One funny thing that did translate while I was in San Diego at the LA, La Jolla Comedy Store, I used to go to the corner before the show and I had a ritual. I would get a Gatorade and a Tiger's Milk bar. And while I was there, almost every week, I used to see the same guy. And he would talk to me and say, "Hey, buddy, how you doing? Hey, what's happening?" And turned out that was the newscaster that Will Ferrell ended up playing.
No.
That's right.
So
Yes,
you actually used to hang out with the actual guy outside the comedy store, and then Will Ferrell based a character on him.
exactly. And now that newscaster. Wait, what's the name of that movie? The Will Ferrell movie where he played the newscaster?
I know one. I
Yeah.
know the movie well, but I can't think of
Yeah,
the
I've
title.
said it
Yeah.
1,000 times, of course. But it's funny because for years I was doing a newscaster.
Anchorman. It just came to
Anchorman.
me. Anchorman.
And
Yeah.
if you notice, the movie takes place in San Diego. There's a reason why.
Oh
And
wow.
so I was at the La Jolla Comedy Store, and I went to get my Tiger's Milk Bar and my Gatorade, and I was in there, and there was this guy, and with his mustache. And of course, every time I saw him, he was buying deodorant, cigarettes, and alcohol.
Right.
And he always turned to me, he goes, "Hey, kid, gotcha, buddy. Have a good one." And I ended up making John Sorensen, which was a news character, which was exactly like him. And about 7 to 8 years later, I had to change that character because Will Ferrell's character in the movie was identical. And people used to say, "Oh, that's a ripoff of that one of that movie."
Right,
So,
but you saw him first. That's so
yes.
crazy. Now, when you made those sketches, the ones that now are online and that people can access, and very high production values, might I add.
Thank
We'll
you.
get to that later because I know you
Yeah.
had help with the production. But
Yeah.
when you were making those, you had some issues with the music. Now, we're a music-based program, so I think this will be very interesting to our
Yeah.
viewers.
No, it's really great. And to answer real quick the previous question, where did I come up with Mr. Velcro? Somebody else gave me the idea and I ran with it. So
Oh, good.
sometimes our best ideas are stolen or
Yes.
given. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
someone gave me the idea and I ran with it. But in
Well, as they
relation,
say,
yeah,
if you're going to steal, you got to steal good stuff. So it sounds like you did in this case.
yeah, that's what I did. It certainly is my most popular sketch as of right now. But in relation to music, for anyone who's making YouTube videos, there is a situation with copyrighted music. Now, there are certain rules that YouTube has and they put out there, but what happens is YouTube often changes the rules.
Oh.
So, for example, Mr. Velcro had Elvis Presley, and they said it's okay to have Elvis Presley as long as you're not monetizing. And then they changed it, saying, okay, if you have copyrighted music, you have to list it, and you have to write the musical artist and what the song is. What they don't tell you is that in order to do that, you have to remove the video and upload it, and you lose the views.
Oh.
And for me, at that time when I first got blocked, I had 550,000 views for Mr. Velcro, went down to 0.
Wow.
Then
That's
I
tough.
put up, Elvis Presley, and I also had Lionel Richie, and I had a few other fun songs. And then it got blocked again because they changed the policy now that the musicians could also have some say in it. And then I put music that was from an original artist. And then the algorithm blocked it because it didn't recognize it, so it assumed it was stolen. So if you're gonna,
Interesting.
I guess the moral to the story is choose a different profession. No, if you're gonna do music, or if you're gonna put music on there, essentially you have to put either copyrighted music that is out there and copyrighted, not just made and you own, but you have to copyright it, or music that's in the general public. And I often just now use the YouTube library. It doesn't mean for your own short films or for different areas or platforms that you can't use original music, but it's a little treacherous when there are rules and then the rules change. So
Yeah, and I guess the other side of it is that the musicians get a say and they get acknowledged. So, if
Yeah.
you're a songwriter, you're like, oh, YouTube is actually looking out for us. But it's
Yes.
tough if the rules change and then suddenly you lose 500,000 views.
it is
that's
tough. Yeah.
Now, so you were doing sketch comedy. I just want to go a little later in your life now,
Yeah.
where you basically had a bump in the road, if I can put it mildly. Do you want
Yeah,
to
a
tell us a
mild
little bit
bump.
about that?
Yeah. Was O'Neill or Murphy involved in that one?
I think it was O'Toole.
O'Toole? Or,
It was
he's
O'Toole's
definitely-
cousin. He's even worse. He's the
Yeah.
most negative in the family.
That makes more sense than O'Neill because only a tool would give you cancer, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Puns are always welcome.
Hey, what the heck, It's an Irish show, right? You got Irish host,
Sure.
you can put puns in there. Yeah, as you mentioned, slight bump in the road, stage 4, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in my 30s, right in the middle of life, unexpected, nothing can prepare you for that. So it happened. It happened.
And of course, you were walking around like the rest of us thinking this couldn't happen at such a young age, right?
Exactly. In fact, when it happened, I was in such denial. I thought, the reason I can't breathe or walk or function, it must be allergies.
Oh,
Who has allergies that makes it so you can only walk 10 feet? I mean, that's maybe you ate some strawberries mixed with peanuts
right.
and inhaled dust from a vacuum. But
Well, I've done all those things in succession, and it does
that's
make you feel bad. But
and
so
that's why
did
you got kicked out of the bar for doing
That's
all
true.
those.
So did you? So by the time you actually went and got checked out, you already had stage 4 cancer.
Yeah, well, what happened
Wow.
was I literally crawled into the hospital because I couldn't breathe.
Uh-huh.
And oftentimes, people have cancer, it affects a different part of their body or it affects a different system. And my body, my lungs had filled up with fluid. My right side was 100% full. My left side, this is the left, yes, it was 85 to 90% full. So I was 10% away from drowning, which in some ways would either be ironic or appropriate because I have a phobia of water.
Right. Okay.
So I would have drowned
My
without
God.
being in the ocean or in a
You-
pool or in a lake or in a
You
river.
stay out of water because you don't want to drown, and then you nearly drown walking around. No wonder you're a friggin' comedian. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so you get to hospital, and now I believe, and you told me this when we were chatting earlier, that they
Yeah.
say that like within if someone's there up to 60 days, they're probably not going to make it. Is that right? Is
Yeah,
that the general consensus?
there's certain conversations people have, obviously
Mm-hmm.
not in the general public, that when you leave, if it's after 60 days, it's in a box. Because
Oh,
generally
wow.
60 days is a cutoff when people don't make it. And I was in the hospital 73.
Wow.
So 73 minus 60 is 13, which is supposed to be an unlucky number, but for me, it was actually okay.
Wow. And
Yeah.
you actually died. Like you actually had an experience where they had to save your life in an emergency situation. Is that while you were in the hospital?
Yeah, actually twice. But the one I think you're referring to was oftentimes you have to take pain medication, and it's very strong. It was called Dilaudid, which I called it Dilaudin because I'm in the hospital making jokes and trying to have fun.
Well,
It's
this is
time
one
for
of the things that you're spreading the news about how comedy crushes cancer. So this is really related to that.
Yeah, in fact, a lot of books you read about. Oh, there it is. I like it.
Oh,
Looks
and there's one of
good.
your screenings of channel
Very
surfing.
cool. Yes, that was the screening that just did not happen because it was postponed. Just like in life, things get postponed and you do it again later and you figure it out,
Yeah.
But back to what we were chatting about is that Dilaudid is similar to morphine. Helps you with pain, it helps you eliminate pain. And I received my injection, and then there was a shift change, and then I received another injection a short time later. And basically, I started to overdose. I left my body. I hovered over my head,
Yeah.
and I could see people working on me. You never want to see a nurse sprint full speed. 5 foot tall, 50-year-old nurse sprinting out, grabbing a needle and getting the doctor. But as I was floating overhead, I thought two things. One, I got to get through this because I ordered a few things on Amazon. And secondly, I got to be able to find some jokes in this. Or at the very least, I can be on this podcast.
Yeah,
Show.
so
At
this
the
is
very
good.
least. At the
And then, of
least.
course, this is from your channel surfing. That's great. Now, speaking of channel surfing, that was actually funded by Brenda Milling Cancer Fund. Is that correct?
That's right. Every single one of my screenings, Comedy Crushes Cancer, I select a cancer organization, a nonprofit cancer organization, and every single penny raised from that event go to that cancer organization. And it was the Brenda Milling Cancer Fund. Out of the 120 cancer organizations that I got support from, they were the one that was most involved, and they were the one that inspired me to actually make channel surfing and do these events. So all the events were free. None of the money went to me. It only went directly to the cancer organization. And that the 3 events all were sponsored by the Brenda Milling Cancer Fund.
Great. So you're helping basically people who are getting into that situation that you were in. You're helping them now through your comedy. That's great. We'll have to wrap it up soon, unfortunately, Paul. But just a question about recent projects. You were in a series called The Wanderer. Did it come out this year or was it last year?
Yeah, it came out.
Oh, there
Right
you
now.
are.
There I am. Oh man, I look like a bad boy.
Yeah,
Ooh, a
bad
tough guy.
detective right there.
That's right. It's on PureFlix, which is my buddy David A.R. White's platform. Family-oriented shows, and this is a 1950s detective show. It's a limited series, 6 episodes, and I don't know if you can tell, but I'm the bad guy.
You look like the bad guy.
Or am I?
Well, you sort of do it with a wink, which I think was appropriate for the show.
That's right.
Another movie that you're now this is hilarious. I know you're a comedian, but you're playing Donald Trump Jr. in an upcoming movie.
Yes, which is very interesting because how do you portray someone? Well, first of all, I didn't even know he existed. So I had to do. Oh, there I am.
Oh wow!
Yes.
You look like him in that shot. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, what I did was I watched a bunch of videos. I studied his body language, how he moved his arms, and the vocal qualities, the facial qualities, and all of that. And I combined them all together. I won't go into the whole thing right now because I know we have a limited time. But if anybody wants to do an impression, just go like this.
Okay, I can see it on your face in the photograph too. Very good. Well, Paul, thank you so much for catching up with us today. It's just a pleasure, and congratulations on all that you're doing, and thank you for all that you're doing for this good cause, and especially with comedy. We really appreciate it, and you are a survivor and a thriver, and I hope we get a chance to chat again soon.
To be continued. We'll have to talk and check in with O'Toole and O'Neill and Murphy and all these other Irish people that you're working on with.
Once
together.
the pandemic and the lockdown and the curfew is over, we'll try to do that.
That's
Thank
it,
you so
yeah.
much. Thank you, Paul
Thanks
Loudon.
for having me, buddy. Appreciate it. See you soon.
Bye-bye. And that was Paul Loudon. Wow, what a great guy, and what an interesting character, inspiring change, affecting change, and helping those who were going through the trauma that he went through. I believe it took a full 4 years from his discovering he had cancer to his recovery, a full 4 years, which is, wow. Strong man to get through that and be so positive about life. Speaking of being positive, I now want to mention our sponsors. We have none. So it's early. It's early in the show, early in our series. And if you feel like throwing something in the tip jar, that would be very much appreciated. We share it with our musical artist who's coming up a little later. But before that, we have somebody who I think you're very, very much going to enjoy this person. Last week, I had the pleasure of chatting with this character, the likes of whom I must say I have never met or spoken to before. It was an educational and very interesting few minutes that I experienced with her. And I think you're really going to love this. This is Smoky Lady. So now I'm going to be talking to someone who's very well known in Los Angeles. She has opinions about things that she isn't afraid to let everyone know about, things that she thinks, things she wants us to think. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to see for yourself. May I introduce to you Smoky Lady?
Oh, and I'm just going to have another merit, and then we'll talk.
Okay, great. Well, it's nice to see you, Smoky Lady.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Owen.
Yeah, and thanks for joining us today. I have to say something. I sort of can't believe that you're smoking during our interview.
This isn't a real cigarette. It's one of those electronic cigarettes. It's the iPuff.
Well, even with an iPop in our current pandemic, is it difficult to wear a mask and smoke at the same time when you go outside?
I don't go outside. I'm part of the high risk category.
What is your high risk category?
I'm human.
And yes, that is a high risk category. If you don't mind my saying, you do look fabulous. Your makeup is just lovely this morning.
You have good taste.
Yes, I do.
You know, but even in this pandemic, every night I get a good night's sleep, and then when I wake up in the morning, I bathe and I do my makeup. I do it for my cat. She freaks out when she sees me with no foundation. But today I added something special just for you.
Oh, thank you.
I removed the skin tag.
Oh.
In Los Angeles, every woman has to keep up her good looks.
Yes.
Inside, or outside.
Mm-hmm.
Like a few years ago, I was walking in Beverly Hills. It was a hot day. I had on my shorts and my walking shoes. And I got pulled over by a bicycle cop.
Oh, well, yeah, that happens, especially in Beverly Hills. I mean, for jaywalking, right?
No. It was for an 0721-3 violation. Failure to shave above the knee. It's a tough town, Owen.
It is.
That was a
And
tough day.
I have to ask another question. How do you get your essentials daily?
Larry delivers my essentials
Larry.
from Larry's Liquors, Sepulveda up at Roscoe.
Well, that's good to know. That's good. You know, I'll have to check that place out. And Smoky Lady, I just have one last question. What are you
Yes.
doing these days to pass the time?
Oh, well, as you know, I'm quite an intellectual.
Mm-hmm.
And I never stop learning. I'm taking online classes. I'm currently doing goat yoga.
Goat yoga. How's that working out?
Oh, it's terrible.
Oh.
The goat doesn't know how to Zoom for shit. It's bad.
Oh, it's
Oh,
bad.
I think that's Larry with my supplies.
Oh,
Larry,
okay.
keep your
Larry,
pants
with your
on. I'm
pants.
coming.
Well,
Woo!
okay. I think we need to cut out of this, Dolly. Okay, thank you. I think it got a little bit R-rated there with Smoky Lady, but as long as she's having fun, what a pleasure to talk to her for the first time. I hope it won't be the last time. I think we are going to get back to regular programming, if that's even possible after that. Thank you, Smoky Lady. Yes, and thank you again, Smoky Lady, who looks suspiciously like Judy Nazametz, might I ask. Thank you again, Smoky Lady. And speaking of characters and laughter, you may remember a couple of weeks ago we had a character from Rhode Island who's literally a clown. And he was such a hit a couple of weeks ago that we had 75% of our viewers actually write in and demand that he appear again. 75%. That's as many as 3 people. Well, we reached out to him, and here's what happens. You're also going to love this. This is Tony the friggin' clown. So Tony the friggin' clown, are you ready to talk now, Tony?
Yeah. Let's do this thing. I got people to say things to do, so come on. Why am I on screen here? Give the people what they want to see. That's it. More Tony. Hey, everybody. How you doing, kids?
They want to see you. You got people to see and things to do. What do you have to do, Tony? What do you do?
I've been doing the Instacart. They're in some extra money.
And extra money, and if I dare use a pun, Tony, are there any strings attached?
Oh, already we're going with puppet humor there. That's very funny. You freaking fleshies are all alike. People are tippers out here, I tell you what. Would it kill you to give me an extra $5? I'm risking my life out there looking at cucumbers so you can have a salad when I could die out there.
Well, I noticed you're wearing a mask, and that protects you, right? I mean, are you not protected from all this COVID-19?
Oh, I take it very serious. I wear a mask. I keep some change in my mask also. I found the mask thing very useful. Where you, Pasadena, right?
Well, where I live in Pasadena.
Well, it's like a retirement thing, right? You can do some mall walk-in in the mornings and then go to Denny's for the early bird.
Are you a regular at Denny's?
Oh, I do like the Grand Slam. Get it with pancakes and scrambled eggs and potatoes, cheese and birthday cake and pastrami sandwich, and mozzarella sticks, some gum.
Are you a good tipper?
I am a good tipper. As long as they treat me right. Now, if I gotta wait just to get a freaking glass of water and I don't want to hear you cry about the damn environment, just bring me some water, then you might get a little less of a tip.
Right, so if somebody mentions the environment, it's all over.
Yeah, the environment will take care of itself. I say, let tomorrow's children worry about tomorrow. Well, lots of things piss me off. Just the other day, I saw somebody, their dog died, and that's tragic, Somebody wrote to him, oh, you'll see him at the Rainbow Bridge. Yeah, have you ever heard such fucking nonsense in your life? They're like, oh, don't worry, you'll see a little biscuit at the Rainbow Bridge. Rainbow Bridge. You were going to get put in the cold, cold ground, and that is where you're going to.
This is a family show.
I'll tell you, you got nothing.
Okay.
Nothing.
Tony, the friggin' clown, ladies and gentlemen, revisiting us and haunting us again. Very popular character, and we hope he'll come back and abuse us again in the future. Thank you so much, Tony. And another of our favorite segments is with our friend Darcy Lynn, who was very instrumental in cooking during all of the Cool House concerts that Divine Rebel Music produced the past summer, but not this summer, of course. But luckily, we were able to get her to agree to do a weekly segment, and they've just been fantastic so far. I don't know what she has in store for us this time, but she consistently comes up with creative and entertaining tips on both culinary and alcoholic delights. This is Bites and Booze with Darcy Lynn.
Hey everyone, happy Friday. The bar is Monday. Hey everyone, happy Monday. Today, I'm going to be making you drunken chicken. This is a great recipe to use with chicken cutlets that you've made yourself, or you can just buy some at the supermarket. Also, you can use any alcohol that you have on hand. All right, I'm going to show you how to cook this bitch. Here comes the fun part. Just kidding. And once that's all cooked down, you simply pour over your chicken. And here you go, drunken chicken. Garnish with lemon zest or parsley. Pair it with a nice Chardonnay, and this is a dish that is bound to get you through the week. Enjoy.
Well, thank you so much, Darcy Lynn. Always fun with the food and the alcohol. Delighted to have her back every week. And lovely kitchen, as Nalini is commenting now. Occasionally I see the comments come up. Hi, Nalini. Good to see you. So, our next guest, well, he's been described as a folk rock blues icon. Deservedly so, might I add. He first came to prominence in 1971 as Bonnie Raitt's bass player. He played with Bonnie for over a decade, and through his many years in the music industry, he's played with some of the world's finest musicians and artists, including John Mayall, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Neil Young, Michelle Shock, Loudon Wainwright III, and Ringo Starr. That's just to name a few. He's also an award-winning songwriter and has produced and recorded 5 critically acclaimed solo albums. We're going to hear from FREEBO. He's going to perform some of those songs featured on those albums this evening. But first, we're going to take you all the way back to the 1970s, to a time when Bonnie Raitt's band consisted of no more than Bonnie herself and our special guest tonight, FREEBO. This is Love Has No Pride.
I've had bad dreams too many times to think that they don't mean much anymore. Fine times have gone, left my sad home, friends who once cared just walk out my door. Love has no pride. When I call out your name, love has no pride. When there's no one left to blame, but I'd give anything to see you again. I've been alone too again. I've heard you talk. Well, she's crazy to stay, but this love hurts me so. I don't care what you say. Love has no pride. When I call out your name, love has no pride. When there's no one left to blame, I'd give anything just to see you again. If I could buy your love, I'd truly try, my friend. If I could pray, my prayers would never end. You want me to beg, I'll fall down on my knees, asking for you to come back. I'll be pleading for you to come back, begging for you to come back to me. Love has no pride. When I call out your name, love has no pride. When there's no one left to blame, you know I'd still give anything just to see you again. Yes, I'd give anything to see you again.
Wow, absolutely beautiful. And please welcome the man himself, FREEBO.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, FREEBO, how you doing?
Doing all right. How about yourself?
Good. I didn't want to feel left out. You wearing headphones, so I said I wanted to be kind of like you know what I mean? So I just threw them on especially for this interview. That was just extraordinary. Now, when you guys started out, it was just the two of you for how many years?
3 years, 71, 72, 73. Yep.
Wow. And so she was on guitar all the time and you handled the bass and the backing vocals?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow. And then she just decided, you guys decided to expand and then do a full band?
Yeah, we would, the first 3 years and the first 3 records, the two of us would go and we'd make the record. We'd put together a band, different people. And
Mhm.
first one was Minneapolis, Willie Murphy and the Bumblebees, and the second was in Woodstock. That
Mhm.
record is from that. And third was in L.A. Lowell George produced it.
Mhm.
And bit by bit we put together a band and became a whole different kind of a thing.
Yeah, because there
there's
all you
Lowell
guys
George
are.
right there. Yep.
Yeah. Well, it's a wonder they all fit in the photo with your hair. It's like you're taking up a large portion of it there, my friend.
Mhm.
Wow, fantastic. And so Bonnie kind of discovered you in Edison Electric Band, is that right?
Yeah, we kind of discovered each other, but she was, her boyfriend was a guy named Dick Waterman at the time who managed
Mhm.
Buddy Guy and Junior Wells, and
Mhm.
he was interested in managing our band, and we were kind of a funky, psychedelic blues band, did a lot of original stuff, and
Mhm.
he brought her down to the Electric Factory in Philadelphia where we were playing. That's the Edison Electric Band, there you go. And
Wow.
we were opening for Procol Harum, and
Mhm.
and he brought her down, and I met her, and apparently she liked the band, and she liked the way I played bass, and I went to her first gig a couple months later,
Mhm.
and we became friends, and she and Dick became friends of the band, and eventually a couple years later, when the band was breaking up, I got a call from her, and she said, I just got a record contract with Warner Brothers, and I can make it anywhere I want. I'm going to make it in Minneapolis. I'd love you to come play bass with me. So I did. I
Wow.
went up to Boston, learned a couple of her tunes, did a guest set, worked out well, did a bunch of shows before the record, and that relationship lasted for 10 years.
Wow, that's fantastic. And wow, that's another great photo of you guys. And so you didn't actually have to leave your own band. Your own band broke up.
Yeah, it kind of
Wow, was it because you got too many calls about the Edison Electric board, and people were like, the Edison Electric band? Was there any sort of cease and desist from Edison Electric?
No, not really. But you know what happens with bands? I think there's a 5-year window, and if you get past the 5-year window, something else changes.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a horse before it goes into a gallop. You know, once it goes in a gallop, it's really smooth. So we didn't quite make it past the 5-year window. That's Bonnie and my friend Will McFarlane.
Yeah.
I've played in Bonnie's band for a long time and is now part of the Muscle Shoals rhythm section. Great guitar player.
Wow, I have a friend, and she says she can never hang out with guys who have better hair than her. Was Bonnie okay with the two of you there?
She had red hair; she didn't have to worry about it.
Oh, she looks great, and what a voice! I mean, I've been a fan of
Incredible.
hers for a long time. I mean, I want to talk later about some of the songs you guys did together, aside from the one we just heard. But from '71 to '79, you did like 7 albums or something, right?
Yeah, 8 actually, and
Wow.
plus a live one. Yeah, we did a lot of stuff together. It was cool.
Wow. And you were touring during that time too?
Oh yeah, yeah, and I would had a chance to play with some other people. I met Maria Moldauer in Woodstock when we were doing the record, and I started playing with her and her fellow named David Nickturn, who wrote Midnight at the Oasis. And when I wasn't playing with Bonnie and they had a gig, I would drive as far as I could just to play with them, turn it into a trio. And she liked the way I played, so when she got her record deal with Warner Brothers, she asked me if I would come and play in the record, so I got to play on the iconic song "Midnight at the Oasis,"
And that
it's
is
great to hear it.
that is a great track. You know, in my well, I say my immersion of FREEBO this week, I came across that track and I listened to it a couple of times, and it's really cool. The fretless comes in right like on the first bar. I think there's like an anacrusis or upbeat or whatever, and then the fretless comes in, and you're really present throughout. I wanted to ask you a little bit about the solos in that. There's a guitar lead break, and you guys are just bouncing off each other. Was that tracked, or did you do it in the room at the same time?
Well, everything was in the room live except for that guitar solo. And that's Amos Garrett, amazing guitar player. And that solo actually is from 2 different takes. But it's like the first half is one take and the second half is another. But it's some phenomenal playing. And a lot of people try to duplicate that and they can't.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I kind of went like that, and then I went, nah. So I mean, so you laid down the bass and the drums, and the whole band was down, and then he came in and he soloed over that.
Well, and he was part of the rhythm section originally, but
Okay.
then he overdubbed the solo. I mean, the drummer in that was a fellow named Jim Gordon, who was in Derek and the Dominoes,
Oh wow.
and
Yeah.
Mark Jordan on keyboards, and David Nickturn, the guy who wrote the song, was on it. It was a really cool track.
Oh, it's fantastic, and it's got that live feel too. Because if things are tracked, you don't get that rhythm section all connecting with each other. And I think in that track, certainly you're tapping your foot, and it's good. I'm glad that wasn't tracked. I'm happy to hear it. With Bonnie, did you guys do a lot of tracking, or were you always playing together in the room?
We were always in the room, and she would always sing with us. In the beginning, a lot of those tracks are live. On the first, really the first 3 records, most of that stuff is live. And that's from the second record right there in Woodstock.
Oh wow.
And then bit by bit, I think as it got more sophisticated, she would still sing live to the track, but then she would go and overdub and sophisticate the vocals a bit.
Yeah, and she's so good live. I mean, you guys together,
Oh,
even
she's
with the
amazing.
harmonies, it's just like you do a take and it's magical. And why try to improve, you know? So I wanted to ask you about a track, Bluebird. That's a Stephen Stills song, I believe.
It is,
And
yep.
you guys recorded that. And of course, again, great guitar playing. And that's all Bonnie, right?
Yeah, that's Bonnie. Yeah.
And when we chatted earlier, I think you mentioned one thing that irks Bonnie is if you say something to the effect of her guitar playing and talking about her gender in the same sentence. Are there
Well,
any
she-
examples of that?
Well, Bonnie was, really one of the originals in women's liberation and in the women's movement, and it used to irk her when somebody said, "Why you play great for a girl?"
Oh my
You know,
God.
what do you mean play great for? If I either play great or I don't, it's not for a girl. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I learned a lot in those early days, just being being with her and getting that female perspective on the whole women's liberation thing and women's power. And I think it affected me a lot because, you know, growing up as a guy in the 50s, you know, it's a whole different mentality. So to get that empathy is really a cool thing.
Yeah, it's a different world. And I want to ask you too about that track. There's cowbell in the middle. So there's like at one point everything drops out and all I hear is the cowbell. Was there someone in the studio that said more cowbell? Did that happen?
That was before the more cowbell skit.
Yeah.
I honestly, I don't remember that. I'll have to listen to it again.
Oh, it's really cool. And then I think it's cowbell, and then it comes in with just cowbell and vocals, and I'm like, there really is more cowbell. And then there's the full band and there's the sax, and I think this is the 70s. You're a little bit before your time with the sax, because I mean that, you know, we hear so much sax in the 80s, but not as much in the 70s. If you know, at least in my listening.
Well, the sax was really the gunslinger of rock and roll in the 50s and 60s until, you know, the late 60s, and then you know, people like Jimi Hendrix and, you know, a lot of the British stuff came in, the blues guitar players. But Junior Walker, that was A.C. Reed who played on that. A.C. Reed, Jimmy Reed's brother.
Great name for a sax player, Reed, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Any wind instrument, great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so so it was coming back then in the 70s. Interesting. And her self-titled album, so speaking of brass instruments, her self-titled album, there's a track on there, Big Road, on which you play tuba.
Indeed.
Was that of your choosing, or how did that come about?
No, well, there's a bass line. It's a classic blues bass. It's like a piston kind of a thing. And at one point, I think she said something about tuba, you know, and I said, oh, I play tuba. And she said, really? I said, yeah. I played in a high school band. I was actually, I made state band in tuba when I wasn't playing football. And she said, oh my God. So we got to get your tuba. Now there we go. So so we did. I borrowed somebody's tuba and I played it on that. And I also borrowed a tuba for the second record. And on the third record, I had gotten this tuba, which is the same one I own now. And I mean, I love the tuba. I mean, it's the original bass instrument, really.
Yeah, and it sounds great. I mean, it really comes through, and that piston bass, as you said, is just right there through the end. Even when the harmonica comes in, all I'm hearing is this, you know, I'm hearing this piston bass, and it's wonderful. Interestingly, I heard you also play tuba on the Roadhouse series when you did that John Prine song.
Yeah.
Along with Alice Howe, and it was just like, I didn't know before that actually that I had seen you play fretless numerous times, but I hadn't seen you play the tuba, and I was like, whoa, that is awesome.
Well, I thought when we decided to do that tune, it's a big old goofy world. I went, wait a second.
You're perfect.
Tuba has that goofiness to it, so I thought that would work out well, and it did. It's great.
Perfect. And I guess you knew John Prine. We should talk a little bit about him too. But, you know, first of all, FREEBO, if you don't mind, we'd ask you to do a couple of songs, if you'd be open to that.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, let's see. I think I'll play this song for all the homeless people right now. I mean, we're going through such strange times with the coronavirus and with economic disparity and now with the social unrest. And I mean, it's never a good time to be a homeless person. And as I like to say, but for the grace of God, there go I. I mean, so many of us are, you know, one sickness away from being on the street. But I wanted to write a song about homelessness, about social issues. I've got my folk shirt on, and one of the traditions in folk music is to write about social issues and sing about social issues. So I wanted to write a song about that, and I decided to write it in the first person from a place of empathy. So I'd like to share it with you. The song's called When There's No Place Like Home. I used to be your neighbor. I had my job and I had my pride, but they shipped them both to China, and it ripped a hole inside. They took my house last summer. Now I'm hungry, cold, and scared. And I'm wondering, does anybody care? When there's no place like home, and you're out on your own, you feel abandoned and alone. When there's no place like home. I used to be a hero, the strong, the proud, the few. When duty called, I stood up tall for the red, white, and blue. But no hero's welcome waited when my damaged soul returned. Uncle Sam don't give a damn, that's what I learned. When there's no place like home, and you're out on your own, you feel abandoned and alone. When there's no place like home. Please don't look right past me. A simple smile could help me make it through. I could be you. If home is where the heart is, then where's the heart supposed to go? When your living room's a cardboard box and your address is Skid Row. If a man's home is his castle and the place where he is king, what happens when he loses everything? When there's no place like home, and you're out on your own, you feel abandoned and alone. When there's no place like home. When there's no place like home. There's no place like home. No place like home.
I think we were looking at each other to see who blinks first. We thought you might do a couple of songs, but I guess they brought you back to me. But no, I'm so delighted they did, because I want to ask you a couple of questions about that song. It's so interesting you did it on the first person, because that's where the heartstrings are. And I know a lot of your stuff is very personal. So a line that grabbed me there, it could be you, right?
Exactly.
And
yeah, I think to me that's the most powerful line of the song, because it's where we have that universal connection. I mean, to me, I think that's what life is about. It's about connecting, and so often we don't connect in this world. I mean, politically we don't connect, economically we don't connect, and you know, a homeless person is a human being who just wound up that way, and whether it's that we feel embarrassed in looking them in the eye, or afraid they're going to ask us for some money, God forbid, give somebody a quarter or a dollar. And I think it's that moment of confrontation, it's that moment of connection. So I really wanted to put that in the song.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And also even the delivery of that line, I mean, we felt it. It's interesting because, you know, people losing their homes, etc. I was reading about one of your old colleagues, David Crosby from Crosby, Stills and Nash, and there was an article came out recently that he said if his tour gets cancelled this year, he thinks he's going to lose his home. which is astonishing. It just shows how hard it can be for people even of that level.
That's
Yeah,
interesting.
you didn't see that article, but
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, if
I didn't know he was so leveraged.
yeah, isn't that crazy? Well, if you're still in touch with him, give him a call, you know.
Yeah. Well, he did do a lot of blow back in the day, so I'm sure a lot of what he made went up his nose, and
Yeah,
but
it's
he certainly turned his life around. I mean, he's a fascinating human being and very
Yeah.
politically involved, and a great songwriter and singer. He's doing some of his best work now with his
Wow.
son, actually.
Wow, and that's
Great
actually
stuff.
what your colleague Bonnie Ray had said about John Prine after he died, was like in his fifth decade that he did his best work. Um, so you knew him back in the day, I assume. Did he come and sing with you guys sometimes, John Prine?
John John.
Yeah.
Well, we did. I remember the first year I was with Bonnie. I was actually right after we did the first record. We back in the day, you would play a week in a club, two shows a night and 3 shows on weekends. I mean, not sets, but shows, a change of audience. And we did a week, 6 nights at a club called the Cellar Door in Washington, D.C., in Georgetown. And we opened up for John Prine. And again, of course, it was just Bonnie and me. And John was playing all by himself. And Bonnie had told me how wonderful he was as a songwriter. And I listened to every set, and Sam Stone. And I don't know if he had written Angel from Montgomery. For some reason it didn't connect with me, but a lot of his other songs did. And just his whole delivery was really amazing. And what was really amazing about John is musically, I don't think he knew more than 5 chords, maybe 6.
Wow.
But what he did with them was really amazing. And like it's about the lyrics and about the connection to the song. What are you saying, and how are you saying it? And I think with his aw shucks delivery, it was super effective, because he wasn't trying to put on any airs. And once again, he's connecting as the common man. I think that's really what his secret was.
Right, and being true to himself, no airs and graces. He was probably really as nice as everybody says. Did you find him to be an amicable chap?
He was great. He was very funny, wanted to have a good time. And no, he was a beautiful guy, absolutely.
Well, speaking of having a good time, I know back in those days, a lot of people partied, and I think, I read some time ago that Bonnie actually went cold sober because the nightlife, I think, as she put it, didn't suit her. Were you involved in all that too?
Oh, of course, yeah. Well, I mean, I come out of the 60s, and I was a straight kid from a little coal town in eastern Pennsylvania. And I grew up with reefer madness. Oh my God, you're going to go and you're going to kill people.
Right.
And when I got turned on the pot, probably in maybe 1967, I guess, and it was really the beginning of my my political and social turnaround. I mean, back then I believed in Vietnam. I believed in a domino theory. I came from, out of the end of World War II, which we were the good guys against the bad guys. We had won the war. We were the good guys in everything, and never was quite sure what the Korean War was about, but it was about communism, and communism was bad, so, it's really black and white. So if they're black, then we're white, so to speak. I really shouldn't say that in these days of racial tension. So it's a metaphor, probably not a good one, actually. But it was really interesting that once I got turned on to pot, and it took me a while to do it because I was really scared, but I was in a rock and roll band. I was growing my hair long, and everybody was doing it. It was 1967, so I went, what the heck? And I got high. I was looking at the lava lights and went, wow. I was listening to music. I started hearing things I hadn't heard before. I didn't feel violent, and I didn't have a hangover the next day. And I thought, why is this illegal? And alcohol, which makes people very often fight and get belligerent, that is legal. And just kind of watch the whole system and finally find out about various truths about Vietnam and what the war was really about. And I think that was the beginning of my turnaround in terms of how I viewed the world. And I've since read People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn, which is all the history that I should have learned in high school and didn't. And a good friend of mine became, a fellow named John Trudell became a good friend of mine. He was a leader of the American Indian movement. I met him through Jackson Brown. And John and I spent many a long night together and just talked about But I mean politics. I'm not talking about Republican, Democrat. I'm
Right.
talking about social interaction and
Yes.
how our leaders affect us, leaders, followers, society, direction. And so I got it from a Native American's perspective, and that was incredibly eye-opening. That was amazing.
And you can
So-
hear it in your songwriting now because you write for social change, and even there's a line in one of your songs that, you know, there's no black and white, it's just shades of gray.
Right.
I think that is, I'm not sure if I'm quoting you properly, but that is something that I hear in your writing now a lot, in the new FREEBO, as you endearingly referred
Yeah.
to yourself earlier.
Would you like to hear that song?
I would love to hear it if you're willing to play it. Yes,
Oh,
thank you.
Of course I'm willing. And able, hopefully anyway. Yeah, this is a song. This song I wrote with my buddy Severin Brown, Jackson's brother, and we were at a songwriting camp. And at one point, Severin seemed conflicted, and I said, "What's going on, Severin?" He told me it was about this song. It turns out it was about a love interest, but he said, "I've got the beginning of this song, and I don't know where to go." And he went. I've heard it said the earth looks peaceful when it's seen from outer space. Such a pretty place for you and me. I said, I'd like to help you with that. I got some ideas. So eventually I changed it to this key. And I like, in my songwriting, I often like to follow a thing called the rule of two, which is if you do something once, do it again. So when he said, I've heard it said, I've heard it said, I've heard it said, I'll repeat that. It's like a lot of twos. You do it. I do that a lot in it. And once you said, I've heard it said, the earth looks peaceful when it's seen from outer space, that gave me the idea of, oh, so let me picture being out there looking at the earth, being peaceful. So, of course, the next thing is, okay, well, as I get closer to earth, I'm on earth. It's really not quite that way. So it's really about perspective. And that's where I kind of took the song to this place of peace and non-peace, and of confrontation and non-confrontation, and finding the common ground. And when it got to the point there, say there are always shades of gray to help us find our way to the light. And that became the title of the song. So let me share it with you. I've heard it said, the earth looks peaceful when it's seen from outer space. Such a pretty place for you and me. How do we hear the wisdom of the crickets in the night, singing out sight from way down here, where there's only right or wrong? Why can't we just try to get along? I've heard it said, there's 100 billion galaxies of light, lighting up the night for you and me. We could be just as peaceful as the earth from outer space, living in a place of harmony. Harmony, oh, such a lovely sound. Why do we put one another down? Just consider that there is no wrong or right, and consider that there is no black or white. There are always shades of gray to help us find our way to the light, to the light. I've heard it said, every culture has a history in stone, dances of their own they like to do. Wouldn't you like to be accepted just the way you are? Is that really hard to see? Couldn't we find a way to understand and blow away that line in the sand. Just consider that there is no wrong or right, and consider that there is no black or white. There are always shades of gray to help us find our way to the light, to the light, to the light, to the light. I've heard it said the earth looks peaceful when it's seen from outer space. Such a pretty place for you and me. For you and me. For you and me.
Beautiful song. Thank you, FREEBO. Beautiful song, great lyrics, great message, pertinent to our times, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, as a songwriter, and I really didn't start writing songs till my mid-40s, really. I literally wrote my first song in my mid-40s, and
Wow.
it came out of a certain frustration. I felt I had things to say poetically and spiritually and politically, socially, and also I had musical ideas. I knew chords, I knew melodies, and often I would hear people I was playing with do stuff, and I wanted to give them ideas because I had all these ideas in my head, and they weren't particularly interested in my ideas. It was kind of like, well, just shut up and play the bass, which was fine with me. I love playing the bass and help make other people sound good. But again, the ideas were, well, they weren't pouring out of me, they were stuck inside me. So I had to open up that valve and let them out. And once I did that, I really got into to the craft of songwriting and rhythm and rhyme and what are you saying? And it's the most challenging thing I've ever done, and it's the most satisfying thing I've ever done.
Well, that's great, but also arranging, because you produce your own albums, right? I mean, I know sometimes you have co-producers, but the arrangements in what I've heard of your songs, they're so interesting and creative. And I guess from years of playing with these musicians and all these ideas that were percolating inside you, when you started recording, I guess, in your 40s, you then can have a platform through which you can express all that.
Exactly. And I mean, that was part of it too. I mean, even with Bonnie records and with Crosby, Stills and Nash, I mean, I'll tell you a little story. I did a Crosby, Stills and Nash session. I played bass in a couple tunes, and I was finished, and I was just kind of hanging out, kind of playing pool, and the three of them were kind of in an adjacent room, and they were trying to work out their harmonies for this particular song. And in my head, I'm thinking, well, geez, David, what? I didn't say it, of course, but I was thinking, well, David, if you sing this, and Stevie, you sing this, and Graham, you sing that. And after about an hour of their bickering, they wound up singing exactly what was in my head. and that was a really interesting moment. That was a moment of enlightenment for me. I went, well, maybe some of my ideas are pretty good.
If you're coming up with ideas for Crosby, Stills and Nash before they can come up with it, because I mean, they actually came together as a result of their good harmonies together, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so then when you were singing harmonies with Bonnie and so many of the other artists that you've worked with, do you work them out prior, or do you hear the harmonies in your head as the song is happening?
I just hear them. I've always liked choral music. In high school, I sang in the a cappella choir, and I sang bass. I always loved bass, of course, and I love four parts. And I always looked at bass as a kind of a counter melody to the soprano. Same with tuba, and that's just the way I think. And then it's a question of filling in the other part. So, the harmony note being the third or the fifth. So it's all based around a chord. And I had piano lessons as a kid, thanks to my mother, who wanted me to be a well-rounded human being. So she made me take piano lessons, even though I wanted to go out and play ball with the boys, and did eventually. But those piano lessons really gave me the foundation for music, so I could see how all the notes fit together and the harmonies and the rhythms.
Right. So when you're playing bass, then you can understand that you're putting in a third instead of a root or a fifth, and you know a certain sound that'll happen and why it's happening, right?
Well, exactly. And you and I were talking the other day when we did a sound check that, most bass players and most people, if you play a C chord, the bass for a C chord would be a C.
Right, and then you go to the 5, so you go to the G, but then they forget about the E.
Well, exactly. There's a third, and then there's a seventh. So there's these different notes in the chord you can play that basically change the shape of the chord. So a chord is made up of 1, 3, and 5 of the scale. But you don't have to put the 1 on the bottom. You can put the 3 on the bottom. You can put the 5 on the bottom, and you change the shape of the chord. So that's what I love doing as a bass player. And again, I love singing harmonies, and so it all kind of came together.
So to go back to the classic track that we mentioned but haven't discussed yet, Angel from Montgomery, when you guys went in to record that, that's basically what you were bringing to it, was you were bringing different notes to the bass that otherwise would have been played, like, let's say, on the Carly Simon version or John Prine version.
Well, what I brought to it was the chord is... I went. And it kind of changed it. That's kind of what I do.
It sounds like a minor third or something. Did you bring in like a minor third there or something?
Well, it's the third of the 4 chord.
Okay.
So there's a 1 chord. There's a 4 chord. That's the root. That's the third.
Okay.
So it's a 4 chord with a third in the bass.
Wow. It is so cool. And of course, that is the version of that song that just goes on. And everybody, I mean, a lot of people think that it originated with you and Bonnie, but it goes back to John Prine, I think, in '71. And then I think Carly Simon and John Denver at some point recorded it. But that's the version that... The Bonnie's version is the one that everybody knows and remembers.
Well, and of course, it has a lot to do with Bonnie singing it too.
Well, she had something to do with it. But when you guys were recording it, did you know that did you any idea what a classic track that you guys were creating in that moment?
You never know. You really don't. Even with Midnight the Oasis, it was interesting because originally, but just to make a little sidetrack, it's funny how things change in the studio. I played that song with Maria and David Nichtern, like I said, when I would take little detours of playing with Bonnie if I had a night off, and if Maria was playing anywhere within 100, 150 miles, I would drive and I would sit in on bass. And that song was originally like a real... It was real funky. And so I came into the studio playing what I would usually play with David, who was playing... And I tried to do that, and after a while, the producer said, it's not feeling quite right. FREEBO, can you change your bass part? And I was like, well, what do you mean? I've been playing this bass part for the last 2 years. What do you mean?
Right.
But I thought better of it, and I went to a whole different thing. Doom doom doo 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 doom doom. I channeled this guy out of Philadelphia, a guy named Ronnie Baker, who played on a whole bunch of the Gamble and Huff hits with the Spinners and the OJs and the Stylistics and Delphonics. And I thought, let's see, what would he do? And so I mean, that's what you do is you learn riffs, you learn vocabulary, whether it's on bass or guitar or singing, and it becomes part of your language. And it's a question of what words you choose, like I'm doing right now, or what notes you choose, or what riffs you choose. And once they asked me to do that, I change it, and then Jim Gordon changed his drum part, and Mark Jordan changed his piano part, and and everything went to a whole different place. And
so then the rhythm section took on a life of its own with you guys all.
Yeah, and it's not like I'm taking credit for it, but it's interesting how, I mean, music is a synergy. And each of it's all about listening, especially ensemble playing. So I mean, I've done the same thing with other people. It's what I do as a bass player. I want to listen to what's going on. I want to listen to the melody. What can I do as a counter melody? What can I do with the rhythm? Where can I stay with the rhythm? Where can I do a counter rhythm? So that's kind of what we do. It's what we do as creatives.
Yeah, and I mean, there's somebody told me this is a myth recently, but you hear this thing where like the kick drum and the rhythm of the bass, like they gotta lock in. What is your take on that?
So that what?
That like the kick drum.
Oh.
So the kick and the bass, like whatever the kick drum is doing, you try to lock in with that, or do you try to work around? What's your take on that?
It really depends. There are times when you want the kick and the bass to be together. There are times when you kind of want them to be separate. So every night, boom, 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 boom. It really depends what it is. If it needs to be smoothed out, the drummer's doing that. Sometimes I might want to play a straight thing.
Okay.
So it just depends on the feel, on what's happening.
Have you always played fretless?
I started playing fretless. I walked into a music store in, I think it was 1969, and they knew me there, and they knew I played bass, and an Ampeg had just come out with a fretless bass, and I thought, well, that's cool, what a great concept, but I like the way Fender sounds. And about 6 months later, I walked in, and they said, hey, look what we got, and they had a Fender fretless, and I put, I think, $25 down on it, and paid it off, and took it home, and didn't play it for about 6 months. I was very intimidated. And then the band, the Edison Electric Band, we got a gig up in Northeast Philadelphia in a bar, 6 nights a week, 5 sets a night, and I thought, nobody's going to come and see me. It'd be a good time to get out the fretless bass. And so I played it every set for that week, and I haven't put it down since.
Oh, that's awesome.
Very, very, very special about it.
Have you ever gone into the realm of 5-string bass, or you'd stay away from that?
No, I play 5-string bass. Yeah, that's what I play now. I play 5-string.
Oh, so your fretless is 5-string. I've seen you play a couple of times, and I guess I just can't count from a distance. But that's cool, because I've met bass players who, they invest in a 5-string bass, and they just go, why did I, it's just a waste of time. But I guess if you're really using it and you know how to use it, then that is...
Well, it's nice to have that extra low string. And
yeah. Yeah, and is it a Martin that you're playing right now?
This is a 64 D28, and it's real old. It's beat up, and
that's
I love it. And,
oh my God, that's why it sounds so good.
Yeah,
because that's when they were making. That's when they were really making D28s. I have a D28, but it's from the 2000s, so I'm like, I don't want to.
This is Brazilian rosewood.
Oh, that's when they had the good stuff. Oh wow.
Well, it's partly that the wood, but I have a theory that if you had a 64 D28 that was made and stayed in the case and was never played, as opposed to this one, this one would sound a lot better.
Yeah.
I think partly because of the wood, partly because of the lacquer wearing off the wood, partly because of the musicality in it. I think there's a certain aliveness to the notes going into wood. It's almost a spiritual kind of a thing. But,
yeah.
It just gets a certain resonance. Older instruments do that.
And what is the idea behind 2 capos? Am I saying 2 capos?
Yeah, you are. Well, the one capo it would be normal. So it's like, let me get that 1 second here. He's back. Okay, this is this capo. What this regular capo just, it just raises all the strings the same way, so you can change the key for your singing. It doesn't change the tuning at all. So if I go, if I put this partial capo on, it only covers 3 strings.
And you're keeping the top 3 open.
Well, these top 2.
Top 2.
And the bottom string.
So you're thinking like a 5-string bass player now, FREEBO, because there's 6 strings on that guitar. So I did the math.
That's right. So what? So
you're thinking, yeah.
So it does it.
Oh, I see.
Is Dadgad. D-A-D-G-A-E.
See, I
and
never
so
thought...
now I can do different shapes like.
Wow, that is so cool. I always shied away from Dagad because of the retuning, but now you have shown me, and I'm sure many others, a wonderful trick with the capo. You know, our friend Randy Miller showed me the trick where you put the capo on 5 strings and you got your drop D without tuning, without tuning the E down. And speaking of whom, just a while back, about 10 minutes ago, he actually sent a message that I just saw the beginning part of it, but as you might know, he's Tom Waits' cousin, and I think he said
really?
that. Yeah, I think you guys worked together. Did you work with Tom Waits? And actually,
yeah, we did.
Here it is again. Yeah,
There he is.
great to hear
Randy,
this behind the
nice
scenes
to see you,
stories.
FREEBO. Hey, Randy, how you doing?
Isn't that cool? Opened with Bonnie Raitt in Santa Monica Civic Center in 1975, and most recently when he played for the John Prine tribute during the Roadhouse series. Great guy. Okay, he's referring to you. That's great. So I guess you worked with Tom Waits back in 75.
We did a whole tour together. We did a whole tour across the country on the bus, and he was an interesting character. We wouldn't stay at fancy hotels, but we stay at Holiday Inns and Ramadas. I mean, decent hotels. And as soon as the bus would pull up the hotel, he'd get in a cab, or he'd walk and he'd go to the dinky part of town and stay in an old flea bag hotel and meet us in the morning, because he just wanted to be part of that whole scene, because that's where his music comes from.
It would be betraying his image if he were to stay anywhere fancy,
Yeah, well, that's kind of where he comes from.
Well, Randy
if there were no Lord Buckley, there'd be no Tom Waits.
Well, as you know, Randy is so clear spoken, and when he sings, his voice is just beautifully crystal clear. And so he and Tom Waits are actually first cousins. So it's kind of hard to. I think their mothers were sisters, and so it's kind of hard to think you're Tom Waits' cousin. Like, how do you have this beautiful clear voice when you sing? And he plays this Martin D35 that is just the most beautiful sounding guitar that I've heard up until tonight, now that I'm listening to your D28.
Yeah. Well, mate, can I play a song with the...
Please. And I was going to ask you, actually, before that, FREEBO, if you'd mind just letting us know where's a good place where we can find your music and your merch, etc.
Well, my website is under construction now, but it's close enough. It's at freebomusic.com, F-R-E-E-B-O. There it is, www.freebomusic.com. And on Facebook, go to my fan page, which is it's actually FREEBO fan page.
Great, it's up on the screen, great.
And just there you go, and just like it. That'd be great. I'd appreciate that. And more and more I've been doing these streaming shows in this COVID time, and so I'd appreciate that support. And my music is on Spotify and Apple Music and all the streaming sites.
Yeah, and your new music is fantastic. I mean, when I say new, I mean, what you've created over the last 2 decades, basically these 5 albums, and they're all available online. You can find them, and there's great reviews. I'm going to turn it over to you now again, FREEBO, to do another song. You can do 1 or 2 songs. We still have plenty of time. We're doing an extended show tonight, specifically because you're our guest. So feel free to do 1 or 2, and then when you're ready, just give me the signal, and we'll cut back to me and we'll chat.
Okay. Well, the derivation of this song is growing up in that little coal town in eastern Pennsylvania in the 50s. It was a whole different time, and Republicans and Democrats spoke with each other and communicated with each other and respected each other. And you could be a blue-collar worker and work an 8-hour job and save, and probably be in a union, get a decent wage, save your money, be able to buy a car, buy a house, have a couple of kids. As a guy, of course, what was my perspective, and the wife would generally be a homemaker for the most part, so it could be like a mother to the kid, and make enough money to send the kid to college. So the so-called American dream, at least for us white people, was very much alive. And since then, the disparity between rich and poor has grown wider and wider, and the political divide has grown wider and wider, and the divide between ourselves and our planet has gotten wider and wider. And so I wanted to write about that, and this became the title cut of my 3rd record. And the song is called Before the Separation. Was it an illusion back when I was young, when everyone was living on a promise? In unity and dignity, together we were one, believing in the freedom of a dream. Once upon a great frontier, not so long ago, the hope of man and earth were so connected. This beautiful creation, here to help us grow, is watching as it slowly slips away. On this carousel of madness, on a horse to kingdom come, I see our dream just melting in the sun. Won't you take me back to Eden, to a time when we were one, before the separation had begun? For the ones who have the money and the many who have not, the great divide grows wider by the moment. Equal opportunity, it doesn't mean a lot to the one who has to struggle to get by. On this carousel of madness, on a horse to kingdom come, I see our dream just melting in the sun. Won't you take me back to Eden, to a time when we were one, before the separation had begun? Hiding in our lives, we blindly close our eyes. Safe but not so sound, no freedom to be found, no. Now I will give my heart and soul, showing dying faith, fighting for a cause that I believe in. Tactical delusions lead me not astray, for the voices of the healing will survive. On this carousel of madness, on the horse to kingdom come, I see our dream just melting in the sun. Won't you take me back to Eden, to a time when we were one, before the separation had begun? Oh, won't you take me back to Eden, to a time when we were one, before the separation had begun? Before the separation. Let me see, let me do another one while I'm in this tuning. Now this is the title cut for my latest record, and I think this song is pretty appropriate now. This is, the genesis of this song is really from when I decided to start writing music. I didn't write the song then, but I kind of go back to that time when I made that decision. And, you know, when there's something that you've been meaning to do for a long time, you just haven't gotten around to it. You feel like there's something eating at you, and you're filled with fear. The doubt of whether you can do it or not, and the regret that you haven't done it, and the blame, self-blame, other people. And that's kind of what I was going through when I decided to start writing song, but I figured I had to fight through it, as I do with so many things, as so many people do with so many things. So, and I think a song right now is appropriate. I was at the rally a couple of days ago. Started in Pan Pacific Park, and it was a very, very peaceful rally. And eventually it got not so peaceful. And it wasn't the people it didn't feel like it was the people that I was marching with. There were 10, 20,000 of us. Felt really good. It had a purpose, had an intention. Yeah, there was some anger, but it was directed at the cop in Minneapolis. One more killing of an innocent black man, and then the cops showed up, and it changed. And I'm not sure what happened first, but violence begets violence generally. And I saw somebody carrying a sign saying, "If not now, when?" And they're talking about that. When will there be justice for the people who do get killed innocently from police brutality? And I'm not saying all cops are bad, but there are some bad cops and there's some good cops. I think it's up to the good cops to help police, if you will, the bad cops, and to get out from behind the blue wall. And hopefully we can make those systemic changes, because it is systemic. So I send the song out, If Not Now, When? For what's going on now. Maybe we can find some way to correct these problems and get some peace and confront the problems, and also on a personal level to do those things that we really feel we're meant to do and we've been putting off. So I send this out to all y'all. If not now, when? When I was a young boy, I had these dreams. Time didn't matter, or so it seemed. Now I'm still a dreamer, like it was back then. Time keeps screaming, if not now, when? Hundreds of heartaches and broken down plans, so many what ifs, and what if I can't? My fear held me captive, caged in a pen. Time to break free, boy. If not now, when? If not now, when? It's not me who I can't pretend. Oh no, 'cause I know it's true. I make this vow, I swear amen. Time is now, if not now, when? Doubting and blaming, time to let them go, 'cause this healing journey, it can go so slow. But I hear these voices again and again, keep on calling, if not now, when? If not now, when? It's not me who I can't pretend. Oh no, 'cause I know it's true. I make this vow, I swear amen. Time is now, oh no, not now, when? It's time to take this leap of faith without a net. Hello, I regret. If not now, when? It's not me who can't pretend. Oh no, 'cause I know it's true. I make this vow, I swear amen. My time is now. It's not now when. I make this vow, I swear amen. My time is now. Oh, it's not now when. It's not now when. If it's not now when.
Awesome. Thank you, Freebo. That's If Not Now, When. That's the title track of your latest album, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the recording of this is very worth checking out. Anybody who wants to check it out on Spotify or whatever other platforms you can find it on. It's a good rock blues number. There's a rockin' beat, but a very deep message. You know, this healing journey can go so slow. I hear these voices again and again. It's very pertinent to our times.
Oh,
thank you, Freebo, for your ethos and your music and for joining us. You know, we're out of time, but I would feel amiss if I didn't ask you to do one last song to see us out, if that's okay.
Sure.
Would you mind if I made a request?
Of course.
Well, now you don't have to do this one because I don't know if because you have a lot of songs, but one that always made me laugh, and I think we need to laugh more than anything right now, is She Loves My Dog More Than Me. Would you be able to do that for us?
I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, Freebo. Thank you, Freebo.
Okay. All right. This song, so this is kind of how songs come about. One day, back when I was married and had a dog, my wife and the dog, a beautiful golden retriever, were on the bed with the dog in my place. And I was not on the bed. And I just kind of looked at the two of them, and I was just kidding. I said to my wife, I said, I think you love a dog more than me. I was just joking, and she didn't say anything. And I thought, that's interesting. So then I started thinking, I said, I think you love a dog more than me. My wife loves a dog more than me. She loved my dog more than me. And I came up with a chorus, and like I do with so many of my songs, if I have some ideas, but I want to get somebody who I think can even give some better ideas. I got together with my good buddy, Harold Payne, very clever, very funny guy and a wonderful songwriter. And I said, Harold, let's construct some verses to this thing. So we did. And it's what we came up with. It goes out to all the dog people out there. Here we go. Once upon a time, everything was so fine, cozy, just my baby and me. I was so well fed, had my breakfast in bed. I was happy as a man can be. Then my buddy called up, had the cutest little pup. I couldn't help but take him in. Little did I know her affection would go to my new little four-legged friend. Now she loved my dog more than me. She loved my dog more than me. I love my dog. She loved my dog, but she loved my dog more than me. We were lying by the fire, burning with desire, when suddenly to my chagrin, as the fire got stoking, came a cold nose of poking, somewhere it should not have been. I thought she'd shoo him away, but she told him to stay. It kinda took me out of the zone. Now a man's best friend love my dog. She love my dog, but she love my dog more than me. So I'm sitting here fuming while he's getting all the grooming. That ain't how it's supposed to be. Well, you know I don't hate him, but I got an ultimatum. Baby, it's the dog to me. Well, I got a reply. She led me outside and she handed me my people chow. Now I'm howling at the moon while he's up in my room, and I'm in the doghouse now. 'Cause she loved my dog more than me. She loved my dog more than me. I love my dog. She loved my dog, but she loved my dog more than me. This verse goes out to you, Owen. There's a moral to the story. When you fall from the glory, you gotta do it gracefully. So I'm back in the bed with the dog at the head. We're a nuclear family, and I accept my fate. You know this little debate, because there ain't no democracy. From the moment he came, it been a doggone shame that she loved my dog more than me. Sing along. She loved my dog more than me. She loved my dog more than me. I love my dog. She loved my dog. She loved my dog more than me. Yes, I love my dog. She loved my dog, but she loved my dog more than me. For all you dog people.
My friend, I can relate. This is what goes on in this nuclear family right here.
I love it. That's great.
You see, FREEBO, we didn't mean to upstage you, but this guy, what can you do?
Hey, perfect.
All right. Yeah, we better get him out of here now, because
is that Dolly right there?
we want people to know that's Jessica. Jessica and my dog, our dog Strudel. He's the
Strudel, I love it.
Yeah, he's the weather dog. Well, I can absolutely relate to that song, FREEBO, and I'm so happy. It's such a fun song, but it also has a happy ending. I mean, it kind of puts you in your place, but at least you end up as a family again.
Exactly.
That is a fun song. Worth checking out online, along with all your other songs. There's so many songs and so much music that we didn't get a chance to talk about, but hopefully another time. And we thank you so much for joining us tonight, FREEBO, and everybody, please check out FREEBO's music online. That's freebomusic.com, and check out his Facebook page and like his Facebook page. And we look forward to seeing you again, especially performing live when we all get back to normal, right? Whatever that might be.
Appreciate that. And if anybody wants to be on my email list and find out when I'm playing live or virtually, my email is freebo@freebomusic.com. Please email me, and I will put you on my email list, and I will not inundate you. So please do that. Appreciate that.
Great. Thank you so much, FREEBO.
Thank you, Owen, and thank you, Dolly, for getting in touch with me and putting this together. I appreciate it. I had fun. I hope you did too.
Oh, I loved it. It was just a joy to have you. We appreciate you spending all this time with us and playing us your great songs. We will talk to you again soon.
Appreciate that. Thank you all.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, FREEBO. Wow, what a wonderful guy, wonderful performer, great history, great ethos, beliefs, songs of our time, even though some of them were written some years ago, very pertinent to what's going on now. And we hope to see FREEBO again soon. We hope to see him live, especially out around the clubs again, and hopefully that's not too far off. Tips, of course, are appreciated. We're coming towards the end of our show. Mostly we appreciate your presence, so thank you. Tips we do share with our musical artists. And just want to go through some of the upcoming shows. So we have on Monday, June 8th at 7 p.m. Songs and Sit Downs are coming back. That's us again with Owen Dara next week, same time. It'll be featuring Jeff Kravitz and Greg Gilman. It'll be normal hour plus. We did a special length show tonight because we had FREEBO and he's got a lot to share and a lot to talk about, and so we decided to extend it. And we're delighted that he spent that extra time with us. Sunday, June 14th at 5 p.m., we have the second Sunday Songwriter Series. That happens just once a month. This month it happens on June 14th. The series will feature this month Alessandra Neiswanger and Catherine Beck, who actually I believe is tuned in tonight. So we look forward to seeing her live during the second Sunday Songwriter Series. If you would like to submit an open mic video, please do. We have had them each month that we've done this online so far. This will be our third month. And submit the song, a video of your song, to divinerebelmusic.com/open mic instructions. You will see a form to fill out. You submit your video, and we'd love to play your video. We'd love to have you involved. The more the merrier. It's always a good show. Monday, June 15th at 7 p.m. We're back with Songs and Sit Downs with Owen Dara. That's me. I'll be here in this very seat. And also Pure and Weary we'll be speaking to. That's a female comedy duo. Catherine and Leah, very funny. And we'll also be talking to our friend Ted Russell Camp. Just recently won a Grammy. Super nice guy who's appeared on Divine Rebel Music shows before, but this will be the first time that he's on Songs and Sit Downs, and we very much look forward to talking to him too. And Saturday, June 20th at 7 p.m., Sweet Sounds Around Town, and that'll feature non-duo, a local non-duo, that's Marina and Paul. We always enjoy seeing live, and this is the first time we're actually going to have them at our Sweet Sounds around town, so we look forward to that. And we'll also have a second artist that's to be announced, so plenty of time between this and June 20th. And also at this time we have something special. We're going to have something special this time around with the open mic second Sunday Songwriter Series. We're actually going to have the premiere of Wings, which is a song that's written, the melody is written by Nalini Lazowitz, and the words are by a poet named C. David Hay. Now they've come together. She discovered these lyrics of a poem and put them to music, and it is a beautiful arrangement, a beautiful song, and we're going to be premiering that at Divine Rebel Music. I'm very much looking forward to that on our second Sunday Songwriter Series. And so after our featured artists on June 14th, round about 7 p.m. tune in and you will see the premiere of this video. Now none of us have seen it. Nalini hasn't released it yet, but she's told us that the same filmmakers that did John Prine's, a lot of John Prine's videos and a lot of other videos, have done a wonderful job to this video that is going to accompany this wonderful song. So do tune in, especially for that. Also on Sunday, June 14th at 5 p.m. 7 p.m. we'll be premiering that video. And the video of the week that we're doing this week, it's a special video. We don't always do this. We did our first one last week, and this week, because of what's been going on in the world, as we said, we wanted to do something for the memory of George Floyd and for all that is going on in our crazy world at this time. And we came across a video written by a friend of ours, Kevin Campbell. He posted it on Facebook just a couple of days ago, and it was written and recorded by Kevin, who was so moved by what is currently going on in our world that he expressed how he felt in the very best way that he knows how. And thankfully he does it very well. And as you're about to witness, this performer is a fine musician and songwriter. This is Kevin Campbell.
It's hard to believe that we breathe the same air when we act like that. As if taking a knee on a grown man's neck was some heroic act. When we took a knee, you exploded and you told us not to do it because you didn't like that. You told us we're ungrateful and to go back where we came from if we felt like that. There's a breaking in the neighborhood and word on the street is the guy was black. No descriptions of his features cause of them were just creatures, but we're so much more than that. As he stands empty-handed, what they really are demanding is he not be black. As he stands empty-handed, what they really are demanding is he not be black. It's harder to breathe when it keeps happening. It could be me, it could be my whole family running out of air. Trust me, it's never felt fair. I'm used to being followed in the store and being profiled when the cops drive by. So tired of being friendly while the anger builds up in me and trying to be a nice guy. But they tell me something happened bad once and the guy was black. Said it didn't mind me because I spoke real well and knew how to act. There's no moral to the story because a moral would mean that a lesson was learned. But it seems we're being taught that another will die and another city's gonna burn. I really hope that I'm wrong, but I think that you know that's probably right. Hug your sisters and your brothers and tell them that you love them while you still have time. It's harder to breathe when it keeps happening. It could be me, it could be my whole family running out of air. Trust me, it's never felt fair. It's just how it is. How it's always been. Where does it all end?
That was Running Out of Air. Thank you so much, Kevin Campbell. Fine performer, fine songwriter. He just wrote that a couple of days ago, how he was feeling, as I said. And thank you so much for that beautiful song. Song of our times, unfortunately, but beautifully done. And thank you everyone else who makes this show possible and who participated in the show this evening. Dolly, JJ, Jessica, Darcy, Tony the friggin' clown, Judy Nazametz, Strudel, and especially to our guests, Paul Loudon and FREEBO. It was just a joy to chat to you and have you guys. And of course, our audience, thank you so much for tuning in, for being with us this evening. I know it's a longer than usual show, but I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. Until then, stay safe, be kind, and thank you so much.